Hi everyone, it's Chloe, and today I'll be walking you through my top video game adaptations. So these could be video games that are based off of books, film, television, and other forms of media, or vice versa, media that is based off of a video game. So let's get right into it, starting with my top 3 other media to video game adaptations. Now, did you know that the first ever video game to be officially based off of a movie license was Atari's Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1982? Video games have come a long way since then, so some things that I look for in a video game that's been adapted from a story in another form of media. I think that especially with film and TV, where there's a story and visuals that are already familiar to the audience, there needs to be some degree of fidelity to the source material. The audience wants this new medium to be accurate to the world of the already existing franchise, but there also needs to be good game mechanics developed around that. So without delaying more, let's get into it. Starting with number 3, 2011's Batman Arkham City, based off, of course, the Batman franchise. This game is the second installment in the Arkham series, coming right after Batman Arkham Asylum. While of course the Batman franchise is huge, starting with comics and evolving into live-action film, television, and animation, this game series began releasing in 2009, a few years after the Dark Knight trilogy began releasing in 2005. While not based off of specifically these movies, they did raise popularity once again to the Batman franchise in that time, and in my opinion, you can clearly see the influence of the dark and grittiness of these films to the game. This game features all the well-known villains, which are loved by fans, great world design, and great combat mechanics, making it a great video game adaptation. In number 2, we have Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, based off of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings books and film trilogies. This action-adventure game from 2014 is an open-world game following Talion, a ranger who wishes to avenge his murdered family and fight Sauron. The game developers here actually consulted both the John Tolkien estate at Warner Brothers and Peter Jackson, the director of the films, to ensure accuracy. And I think this is a great move when developing a video game adaptation, especially for something like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, where the world is huge and absolutely beloved by its audience. And just a little fun fact for you, the combat in Shadow of Mordor was actually based greatly on the combat of the Batman Arkham series, as the game developers were starting a Batman project, taking inspiration from these games, but later scrapped this idea and made Shadow of Mordor. And finally, in number 1, we have some dual action. We have Lego Harry Potter, Years 1 to 4, and Years 5 to 7, based off of the Harry Potter books and films. Now, if you're around my age group or even older, you'll understand when I say Harry Potter books, films, and games took over my childhood. I loved the books and the films, and that's an understatement, and I have definitely played these games all the way through more than once. Now, even with more Harry Potter video games coming out after these games, such as the more recent and amazing Hogwarts Legacy, this game really does hold a huge amount of nostalgia for me, which is why it makes the list. As I find with all the LEGO games, they actually follow the story pretty exactly, almost scene by scene with the films, while still cutting out anything that didn't need to be included. Plus, the LEGO visuals only add to the nostalgia factor for me, which is why these will always be, in my opinion, great video game adaptations. Now we're moving on to video game to other media adaptations. Now, this is a more recent phenomenon to take a video game concept and turn it into something else, largely because video games weren't taken seriously for some time. The first live-action film based on a video game was the original Super Mario Bros. Movie from 1993. However, it, along with many of its counterparts from the time, was not successful, with cheesy dialogue, bad acting, and no real understanding of how adapting a video game should be done. In my opinion, the best video game movies take the concept from the game and are able to expand on it, while still staying accurate. While it can be a challenge to adapt from an interactive form of media into a straightforward narrative, these adaptations have come a long way since the 90s, so let's dive right into my top 3 video game to other media adaptations. Starting off in number 3 is The Last of Us, based off the game The Last of Us. This story follows Joel and Ellie as they travel through a zombie-like apocalypse, trying to get to a facility and find a cure for the outbreak. This HBO series is known for exactly replicating parts of the game in the series through the casting and the scene-for-scene recreation. This appeals greatly to the fan base of the game because it is just so much fun to see these scenes played out in a cinematic way. This was HBO's first series based on a video game, and to help the process, they hired the writer and co-director of the game, Druckmann, and the co-writer Gross, to assist with the script writing for the series, which did result in some word-for-word dialogue taken straight from the game. So cool. While there is so much in this series for fans of the game, I do think that they took out what needed to be taken out, such as the kind of wandering around and filler combat that you do get in an open-world game, and they replaced it with more character development, which fits the format of a high-quality television show perfectly. In number 2, you know I had to include something from the Pokemon franchise. We have the OG Pokemon Indigo League. The Pokemon franchise all started with the original games from Nintendo in 1995 and has since expanded to more games, animated series and films, trading card games, and even the recent live-action film, still releasing media to this day. Though there are many great releases, just like LEGO Harry Potter, Pokemon Indigo League just holds a level of nostalgia that I don't get much anywhere else. Plus, when this aired in 1997, it would have been amazing for fans of the video game to see these graphics and the sprites of their favorite Pokemon turned into this. Finally, in number 1, we have Arcane, coming from the game League of Legends. This takes the first place spot for me because of the sheer amazement that I had from seeing how the creators of the series took a fairly simple multiplayer battle game and turned it into a series with honestly some of the best plot and character development I've seen. This show takes characters Jinx and Vi from League of Legends and creates a whole world and a completely original story that League fans never expected, and it uses a beautiful animation style. In my opinion, this is a perfect example of transmedia storytelling, where the creators are really successfully adapting to the type of media that they're creating, instead of getting caught up and limited by the source material. This brings us to the end of my top video game adaptation lists. We have Arkham City, Shadow of Mordor, and LEGO Harry Potter for video games, and The Last of Us, Pokemon Indigo League, and Arcane for film and TV based on video games. I hope you had fun and go check some of them out, and thanks for watching.